strategy process for my own small business. My own small business is my own school, which is the Strategy Finishing School, where I teach strategists the fundamentals of strategy. So I'm coming up to the stage in the year where I start to plan again for the next year, looking at how I'm going to communicate my offering out to the market. And to begin with that whole process, what I actually do is I talk to my current customers. So I sent out a Google survey to the current members and asked them one question: how could I help them reach their goals in 2024? What could I do to improve the Strategy Finishing School to help them achieve their goals? So I had that survey go out. I just did it on Google Surveys for free through the emails. I just sent an email out to everyone, and then I got 55 responses from there. And then I also complemented that by reading a form that I've got at the end of the first module of my Strategy Fundamentals course, which is asking people what did they love about the course, what were things that I could improve on. And what I'm looking for is really things that they think I can improve on, and then also the things that they love, but more the things that they can improve on. Because when I'm thinking about strategy, I'm thinking about what are the new features that I could bring into my product that then probably are going to resonate with the market as well. So when I did this survey, I've actually got the results in front of me. I'm halfway through what I would call the researching process. So what I will do is I'm now getting a couple of hypotheses together about what I think will be the potential features that I'll add to the Strategy Finishing School in 2024. And what I'll do from here is I'll narrow these down, work out what that might look like as a feature or a product extension, and then I will go out and speak to some of these members and see if that's something that will resonate with them. That's the first step, because they're people who have clearly paid for this product. They're clearly really interested, and they're the type of people that I'm trying to attract. Obviously, there's another step where I've got to talk to potential customers and ask them the same questions as well. But now that I'm in this process of going through the research, I'll tell you the three things that came up time and time again. So pretty much all I did was write it on a piece of paper and then just put a tick next to the ones where I constantly heard them coming up. So there was really three areas that came up. The first was interesting because it's something that I had improved in the actual product this year, which was to increase the number of exercises and quizzes in that first fundamentals chapter. I had added more in there, but clearly people are looking for more exercises and examples. And I guess that's the thing with strategy. You don't often get feedback on your work. So they were loving those opportunities, but they're telling me put more in. So that's really something that I can improve in the product. It's a simple piece for me where I can put in more quiz questions and exercises. I also review everyone's strategy portfolio at the end of that first chapter, so after kind of 3 weeks. So it's just putting more of those touch points where they're feeling like they're learning and they're getting some feedback whether they're learning those systems. So that was number one. Number two was really interesting. There was a thought that people are going through the course, but they're feeling like they don't have a map of how everything relates. And it was really interesting because it took me back to when I started in strategy, and that was the exact same thing that I wanted. I wanted like the map to see what are all the different things I need to learn and how do they all connect together. That is something so easy. It's kind of in my head, but what I realized is I need to get that out onto a piece of paper. So there's actually a model that I like that I actually steal from the designing planning process called the double diamond planning process. And right now I've kind of had a little thought that, you're hearing the very first thoughts coming through to my head. But my idea is that will be the map that I'll use, and I'll show how every lesson connects to those different pieces, how every output relates to that, and how every presentation that they have to create, and how all the lessons kind of connect in together and which ones connect. So that'll be a little bit of work for me, but really something quite easy. They're loving the product. It's more just get the map so I can see it visually outside of your head on a piece of paper. So that will be good. They'll also probably go forward into communications. So most people who sign up to the Strategy Finishing School come along to one of my webinars where I can talk a little bit more. I kind of do a bit of education on one of the topics in the Strategy Finishing School, and then I show people a bit of a sneak peek behind the curtain. And I think that might be a really nice way to talk about the Strategy Finishing School and all the pieces in it. So that will be the second thing I do. The third thing that came up was that a number of people were saying, I want different examples. So in the Strategy Finishing School, my experience is I've worked at big agencies, I've worked at digital and social agencies, but the examples I chose were always from the bigger agency experience that I had, because I thought that was the kind of the most entertaining stories to tell. But what I was hearing was people wanted services, B2B examples, different markets outside of the US, Australia and UK, different people and places. They wanted to see it for PR. So I've got, and then kind of people branding as well. So I've got all these different areas of people saying, oh, I just want to see how it applies to my market. So two things come to mind there. I think what I've always believed to be true is that the fundamentals of strategy don't change depending on where you work. It's just about how you apply them. So I think this is potentially the problem that we're going to attack for 2024 in all of my kind of forward communication, because it sounds like the biggest hurdle that people have got to come over. I'm thinking about how I answer that problem. And so one is it more touch points with me, where maybe I'm running monthly webinars where we talk about how it relates to different industries or different sectors, or bring along your problems, tell me what's wrong. Or is it a bit of a diagnosis when people are coming in? Am I asking questions and showing how it can relate to their industry or the specifics? That's still something I need to work out. But the first step always with strategy is you're trying to identify the problem. I know the goal, which is to increase the amount of people who sign up to the Strategy Finishing School. Now, that's the goal. Now, the problem is that people are looking at this program and going, I don't know if it's relevant to PR. I don't know if it's relevant to pharma. I don't know if it's relevant to my situation. So how can I show, yes, it is relevant to your situation, and give them the confidence to be able to excel in strategy in their own domain? So that's the big kind of problem that I'm kind of surrounding. And I think it's going to be exciting. Now that I've got this problem, what you do is you start percolating on it. You go and interview some of those people who said that this was their problem, to really understand it a little bit more, and see if you can hear different points of view or different ways that I might be able to solve this problem, or different insights that they might be able to give. So that is the start of how I would do my strategy process. So if you run a small business and are trying to work out what the process is, if it's run for a couple of years, what you're trying to do is talk to your customers, work out what their problems are, where you can potentially help them solve those problems. If it's adding a feature or a benefit, this is if you're in an existing business, or it's a new problem that they're starting to see. And then start to talk to them to really understand that problem, work out whether your product can solve that. Maybe it's a feature you just hadn't communicated yet, or maybe it's something you need to build. In my case, as a online knowledge business, that's easy for me. The production and the creation of new content is something that's easier for me. But I realize in some small businesses, impossible. So you need to know whether you can change it or not. and then find that problem and then work out how you're going to communicate that you can solve that, and also how you're going to communicate that you understand that that's a problem for your audience as well. I might do a follow-up video to this if anyone's finding it interesting, and I feel like this is more of a personal video about what I'm going through, but I think it's super valuable for everyone who's interested in strategy and building a strategy for a small business. So let me know what you think.